Welcome to this video. This is a series that we put together to help kind of focus on calibrating and understanding how to taste blind for the WSET Level 3 in wines. And the way this works is I'll do a run through of the tasting note and give you my impressions of what the wine is like and how I would grade it when I do grade the exam papers. And then I'll give you a chance to kind of consolidate your notes, take a pause, and then I'll come back and I'll reveal the wine and give you my impressions of it from there. So let's get started. The wine that I have in my glass today for this video is clear. It is medium in its color intensity, and the color is lemon. And there's no other observations here, such as gas or whatnot. On the nose, clean. I'm gonna put my intensity level actually medium minus. It's got some aromatics. They're coming out of the glass, but it's not something that's like screaming or jumping out of the glass to me. So my impression really is just a little less than what I would consider to be the normal or the standard kind of middle ground for medium, and so medium minus. Don't forget your development call here, especially if you're taking an exam, because this is an area that I find a lot of students just miss, or they put it in the wrong segment. Your development note always goes into the nose category. So here I'm going youthful. All primary for the most part. I don't smell any oak influence, and I'm not smelling any tertiary. Everything seems to be fairly primary and relatively young. So youthful is my call here. What am I smelling? Well, it's got a fair amount of aromatics. A lot of them are leaning towards the green or herbaceous kind of side of things. So in the floral, I'm gonna say there's a little acacia. It's got this slight exotic kind of quality to it. Quince would be my call on green fruit, maybe a little bit of green apple. And then I'm gonna kind of quickly move down the list to tropical. I'm getting this like slight underripe melon kind of quality. And then working further down, the herbaceous and the herbal, this is really where I think this wine is kind of coming through. So slight grassiness, but not in a hay kind of quality. It's more of a green kind of grass, slight fresh cut grass to asparagus, a little white pepper, fennel, dill. There's a fair amount of that kind of going on. I put my nose in the glass, I get a lot of like fennel, herby kind of thing. There's no licorice or any of that. It's just this really kind of like straight up green aspect to the wine, and a little bit of an underlying whetstone aspect to it as well. And as I said before, I'm not getting any secondary, no oak influences, no malolactic or any of that kind of stuff, and certainly nothing on the aged or tertiary category. On the palate, let's give it a taste. Okay, this one is dry. Definitely leaves my mouth feeling sort of fleshed out. It's got good acidity. My mouth's watering. It's juicy. So dry, medium plus acidity. Alcohol is, I'm not getting any burn. I'm not getting any warmth. Not a lot of cooling sensation. So medium is where I'm going to call this. On the body, just medium as well. I think all that acid kind of helps to kind of smooth out this wine. It brings forward, it's kind of interesting in a second when I get to the flavor characteristics, but it brings forward a little bit extra dimension here. So body, medium, flavor intensity, still kind of medium minus, although I'm getting flavors. They're just sort of toned down a little bit. Kind of, and I guess in a positive way though, because I would call this wine, and I'm going to say, you know, down below on my quality assessment, I'm already kind of thinking ahead a little bit. There's an elegance to this wine. So lighter in body, lighter in flavor intensity. So medium bodied, I'm sorry, and flavor intensity is medium minus. And the finish is medium. So those flavors do carry, but not really, really long. On the palate, in addition to that sort of herbaceousness and that green fruit, green herby kind of quality, the whetstone, the sort of density of the wine comes through a little bit, and that pepper, that sort of like soft white pepper kind of thing comes through. There's an interesting quality to this wine because it almost has a coating on the palate that it reminds me of a summer salad almost, and it's got a lot of greenness in it, a lot of freshness, and it's pretty interesting. So developing complexity, I think, here. So A fair amount of things that I would point out, all primary though. There's nothing really secondary. There's no oak influence, as I said before, and I'm certainly not getting any tertiary. So a fairly young wine with just a lot of expression of greenness to it. And so in my quality conclusion, when I go through balance, length, intensity, and complexity, Blick, I think there's actually pretty good balance. Everything kind of comes into check. The only thing that I would say maybe falls short a tad is that it's just not a big wine with a lot of intensity, but I think there's an appropriate amount of intensity here. So I'm gonna give it a check on the intensity. Length, medium is what I called. I think there's decent length here. And again, kind of appropriate for this wine. It's a more elegant, more balanced kind of wine. And so I think that all kind of leads me into a conclusion that there's a fair amount of good complexity going on here. It's just sort of fairly subtle. So in my quality conclusion, I am actually going to mark this as a very good wine because I think I gave it fairly high checks all the way through. Nothing kind of broaches the outstanding for me, but good balance, good length, good intensity, good complexity. I think I'm giving it almost full marks all the way across the board on there. So very good is where I'm going to call this from a quality assessment. And I also think it's a wine that really should be drunk youthful, should be drunk now. I don't think this is something that's going to improve with a number of years of aging. There's really no reason to kind of put this in the cellar and let it sit for a while, because I think you're going to lose that freshness, that herbaceousness, that youthfulness that really is kind of well done right now, well defined. So I think a pretty good quality wine, very good is the call, and something that really is not going to benefit from further aging. All right, so give yourself a minute. I'm going to pause and I'll come back and we'll talk about the wine. Okay, so this wine is kind of interesting because it's an example of a wine that I think actually has a fair amount of complexity, although it's in a very subtle format. And one of the clues that I think might lead you to kind of figuring out or giving an identity to what this is that sort of high acid aspect, but also a lot of greenness to it. And in fact, in the name, this wine makes note of the fact that it has all that. So this is Gruner Veltliner. This is a wine from Austria. On the label, the producer's name is Sachs. And we have Zwillinghauser, which is a Comtal origin Gruner Veltliner from the 2020 vintage. And on the label, the alcohol content here is 12.5%. So medium alcohol, as I said, displays a lot of herbiness. I think the complexity, that sort of density, particularly the stone and the spices, are coming from the fact that it is the Comtal region. And this is a region that is known for producing fairly high quality wines. It has great exposure to the sun. Grapes get fairly ripe and build that complexity into them. So pretty high quality wine. I did give it a note of very good, which I think it actually fulfills all of the check marks that you need to kind of come up with to get to that level, with a producer that looks like they've been around since 1660 and produce a pretty exceptional wine. So this is Sachs Zwillinghauser Gruner Veltliner from the Comtal in Austria. Vintage is 2020. All right, cheers.